The bright side of addiction is recovery. And recovery is living proof. Hi, everybody. I'm Neil Scott. If you're new to our podcast, we welcome you. And if you have been here before, welcome back. And if you're in recovery or know or love someone who is, or maybe you simply want to know more about the recovery process, well, you've come to the right place. This is the podcast for you as we carry the message of hope and the promise of recovery. And a reminder, you can find all of our podcasts at recoverycoasttocoast.org. Recent episodes have featured interviews with the brother of iconic comedian Chris Farley, his brother Tom, plus Peter Yarrow from Peter, Paul, and Mary, author Brene Brown, Broadway star of Ben Vereen, and many, many others, including everyday people in long-term recovery, as they share their story, their insight, and their path. Now, in this edition of Recovery Coast to Coast, we're going to visit with two amazing individuals. The first is Carol Cloud. She runs the Addiction Counselor Training School in Houston, Texas. She explains the process necessary for individuals, people in recovery, to become professionally trained. She explains the process necessary for individuals, in particular people in recovery, to become professionally trained addiction counselors. She herself has been in recovery over 50 years. Now, here's a quick clip from my conversation with Carol Cloud.
Recovery means living a peaceful, calm, wonderful life. I always tell people, in order to get sober, I needed to do what felt better than getting high. And so that's what I do.
And also featured in this podcast is my conversation with an Afghanistan addiction counselor. His name is Naser Karimi. He emigrated to the United States and went through the Addiction Counselor Training School. His story is powerful and poignant. He was a counselor at an addiction treatment center that was overrun by the Taliban. And horrifically, the patients were killed. Here's a little bit of that conversation with Naser.
And I worked in that places around 1 decade. And whenever the Taliban took and came to my country, they closed, they banned, they destroyed all the drug treatment centers. And
all the drug treatment centers were closed when the Taliban took over.
Yeah, and in front of my eyes, they killed many innocent women because they said in our idea, women must never use drugs.
And so when they found that these women used drugs, they killed them.
Yeah, they were in inpatient treatment centers.
My conversation with Carol and Naser is coming up, and we will conclude our podcast with some wonderful words of wisdom from a great actress who lives her recovery every single day, Ali McGraw. Our website is recoverycoasttocoast.org, and if you'd like to help us out financially or know of a foundation that may be interested in underwriting part of our program, we would be ever so grateful. A reminder, our email address is recoverycoasttocoast@comcast.net, and we would love to hear from you. Recovery Coast to Coast is supported by Sundown M Ranch, one of America's oldest, least expensive, and most successful treatment programs. Now, they're listed in the Newsweek magazine's recently released 2024 list of America's top treatment providers. You know, addiction is a disease that affects the entire family, and oftentimes the family members develop unhealthy ways to deal with the pain and the chaos of active addiction. And unless these patterns are addressed, they can persist even long after treatment. That's why the family program is so very important. At Sundown, the family program includes orientation, understanding the disease of addiction, and understanding the process of recovery, which follows treatment. It includes individual family sessions, group therapy, educational materials, evaluation, referrals. It's very comprehensive. Best of all, no additional cost. Sundown is located in Washington State, They're on 30 acres at the mouth of the Yakima River Canyon. They are a not-for-profit program, so their bottom line is not financial, it's recovery. Successful, long-term recovery. They've been doing this over 55 years. Their staff works with most major insurance companies, and in many cases they can arrange for same-day admission, and it's all done with empathy, compassion, and the utmost confidentiality. Treatment at Sundown is abstinence-based, 12-step centered. They provide detox, education, residential care, individual and group therapy, and continuing care planning to create that bridge back into the family and back into the community. Check out their website for more information. You can also take a look-see at their facility, which is really not far from Seattle. It's outside of Yakima. Sundown M Ranch, where recovery begins. There's that coffee pour. Coffee time, and I invite you to join me for a cup of coffee, or whatever your beverage of choice happens to be. I'm excited to share a conversation that I had with Carol Cloud, the director of the Addiction Counselor Training School, and an interview with Naser Karimi, an Afghan, a refugee who was a counselor in both Iran and Afghanistan until the Taliban began killing women who were in a treatment center. They forced him out of the country. It's a powerful story. Let's begin first with my conversation with Carol. Okay, we are down here in San Antonio, Texas. I love coming down here. This is an amazing conference, the TAP conference. That stands for the Texas Association of Addiction Professionals. It's an amazing conference. There's probably over 1,000 people here, and a lot of exhibitors and a lot of supporters and frontline people working on the front lines of addiction. And a woman we talked to a few years ago, I've been doing this now, I've been emceeing this conference for 15 years, and a few years ago we talked to Carol Cloud about addiction counselor training. And we have some history in a mutual friend named Greg Lovelace. And I'll let Carol tell you a little bit more about that. Carol, welcome back to Recovery Coast to Coast. How are you?
Great. Thanks to be here.
Tell us about our friend Greg, because you were a disciple of his, and then when he sadly passed away, you started a similar program.
Well, Greg was a dear friend. He was actually the best man in our wedding.
No kidding.
Back in the 70s. We hooked up with him again in Austin, and he said, "Hey, Carol, you want to run the school for me in Houston?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." And we had a great run for about 15 years, and he passed. When he passed, the school kind of got inherited by his kids. And fast forward a couple of years, I just loved doing what I was doing, and I loved being able to populate the field with really excellent counselors.
So you basically took the blueprint.
I took the blueprint of what he did, and I'm just wanting to do the same thing. We have a fast-track program that's unlike what the colleges do. That's one thing we do. We don't do anything else. That was Greg's idea. Why do we need to stretch it out for 2 years? Let's go ahead and put together a program that's possible to complete it in 6 months. But the classroom is 12 weeks, and then the practicum where you go on site's 300 hours. So that's just kind of how that works out for you personally working somewhere. But that was Greg's idea, and it was a great idea.
How difficult is it to get treatment programs to take people from the school as interns?
I have enough people that I've worked with long enough. They love to take my students because our students always hit the ground running.
Oh, my goodness.
So if I can come to conferences like this and meet and greet people and let them know about what we do, and I try to match the right student with the right facility, the right background, and so that everybody's happy. The facility's happy, the students happy, but mostly the clients are happy.
Absolutely. How long have you been in the field?
I got sober in my late teens, and then we just kind of decided this is what we were going to do for our lives. So
tell me about getting sober in your late teens. How far down the spiral did you go?
Well, addiction is addiction, right? Did
you go through treatment?
Well, there was this amazing program called Palmer Drug Abuse Program.
Palmer, yes.
And, it was a really big deal back in the day.
You're saying that's no longer in existence.
It is still in existence. It's gone through a lot of changes. A lot of people have grown up and But it's still there, and we still celebrate it. Not as strong as it was when we had its great leadership. All the leaders have kind of grown up and went and did their own thing. Like
Right.
Greg. Greg
Yeah.
was a big part of that.
Yeah, I know. So how long have you been in recovery?
I think I've got 50 years.
50 years, a newcomer.
I quit counting.
Wow, you've got today. You've got today, and that's all that matters, Carol. What does recovery mean to you today, 50 years later?
Recovery means living a peaceful, calm, wonderful life. I always tell people, in order to get sober, I needed to do what felt better than getting high. And so that's what I do.
Tell me a little bit about the school. How many students do you take in each year, and give me kind of a summation of that. And then also talk about Naser, a guy you just introduced me to. What an amazing story. You must tell that.
Our classes are small, and because they're quick, they're always small. The best class is like 10 to 12 people per class. So you get them in, they do their 12 weeks, and then they leave to go do their practicum, and we start another 12-week class.
It's all in person? It's not online?
Well, we have in person. I've resisted doing the online, but we're going to go ahead, and we just started doing distance learning because I figure if I love to watch YouTubes and learn that way, then I'm going to let everybody else do that.
You're coming into the new world of electronics and media. My goodness.
Yeah.
Everybody is doing it, and successfully, I might add.
Yeah.
And so how many students have you, since you have started this new venture a few years ago, how many students have you brought through the training program?
I need to go back and count. I was just looking at the numbers yesterday. So we're 160.
Wow.
So we started up right as COVID hit. So I'm probably overestimating a little bit.
Yeah.
So as soon as we announced it, we had a rush of people. They all wanted to get on. And then as the doors started shutting around everywhere, we just had a few people back out. But we did end up catching one class together, and it's just kind of taken off after that.
Tell me about Naser. You introduced me to Naser a few minutes ago.
Naser, I believe that God blesses me with the right students. Naser called me. He is a refugee from Afghanistan. When the Taliban came in, he was targeted as possibly being on their list of people that they were going to, go after. He was offered refugeeship, or whatever you want to say. He's a refugee from Afghanistan, from the Taliban. He's got his master's in addiction, and he wants to continue to work as an addiction specialist in Houston, in Texas.
How did he arrive in this country?
They said, if you want to get on the plane and come over to America, we'll sponsor you and get you on the plane and take you out of here to safety.
Did they take him to Houston?
He had a few choices: California, D.C., Houston, and of course Houston was the best.
Of course.
Yeah, he was fleeing. He just handed me a note. There were some people, some addictive people were killed in DTCs. I don't know DTCs. He has lots of slang that I'm not quite catch on to. But the Taliban were actually after women specifically.
But he got his education in the addiction field in Afghanistan.
He was working in the addiction field. He's been published. There's a publish. You can get it online. He was teaching and counseling in the addiction field in Tehran, and I guess there's
Tehran.
Kind of flows around there, yeah.
Wow. Tell me his last name so people may want to look it up and Google it as well.
Karimi, Karimi.
And so he comes to Houston with his family or just by himself?
He's a newlywed.
He's a newlywed.
And he just got the good news that they're expecting their first.
Oh, my goodness.
So.
Now, did he meet her in Tehran?
He met her over there. Yeah.
So they came over together.
They came over.
And then how did he get involved with your school?
He was got hooked up with an organization to help refugees, and she looked up how to be an addiction counselor, and she found my website, and she says she wanted to help sponsor him so that he could come and get a job and do what he loved doing.
Is he in school now?
Yes, actually, he just finished the classes. I guess he knew most of it anyway. I'm sure he picked up because we have an amazing teacher, and you always learn more. There's always more. He's getting ready to start his practicum.
How many teachers do you have at the school?
Just two. I have a day class and a night class.
The Addiction Counselor Training School, the website for that?
AddictionCounselorTraining.com.
Well, that's pretty easy. That's pretty easy to remember. AddictionCounselorTraining.com. A lot of people ask me, what do I need to do to become a counselor? And a lot of them, frankly, are on the honeymoon, the pink cloud, if you will. They're in the first year of recovery. They want desperately to give back. You do have to go through school. You do have to be educated. Years and years ago, all you had to do was be in recovery and you could work in this field. Not the case anymore. So what advice do you have to people? And I'm sure that in each state, the license requirements are different. But what advice overall do you have for people who would like to work in this field to help others in a professional way?
Well, all the requirements are very similar. They're a little bit different, but the basic education that you need is almost the same in almost all the states.
Which is what?
Which is the basic, well, they call it the 270, but your basic six, like, they translate to college courses. Like we do the basics of addiction, how it affects people mentally, emotionally, physically. We go over how to do an assessment and how to use all of the core functions of a counselor. Then we have a whole class on counseling skills for addictions. And then we have how addiction affects the family specifically. Mm-hmm. And then we have ethics for the counseling field. And we have the theories that work best with addiction.
Once people go through your class, do you help them find work?
Well, that's what makes me different from most of the other schools. I do like to help try to match up the students with the right practicum place. So if you're interested in criminal justice, I know a lot of people in the criminal justice field. So they're dying for practicums and interns and counselors. Yeah.
Is there a shortage of counselors in Texas?
There's a big shortage. And there's always a shortage of good counselors.
Yeah.
People are always looking for good counselors.
Yeah. How do you distinguish a good counselor?
Well, somebody's come through our class.
That's a good answer. So a lot of the people that have come through your school are now working in the field. That must make you incredibly proud.
It's so cool to come to conferences like that. This is why I love to do it, because then you see all these people. And even recently, I've been having people contact me, and they've moved on. They've got their master's in counseling. They've got their PhDs. I've had a couple people with their PhDs call me out of the clear blue sky. You don't remember me? And I'm like, yes, I do.
It's a thank you, Carol call.
Yeah.
My goodness, that's just amazing. Do people have to be in Texas to go through your school? And you're talking about some online stuff now, distance learning. How far of a distance?
Well, I mean, so far, yeah, we just started the distance learning. We put a camera in the classroom so that you're actually interacting and you're watching the teacher. It's not just, here's your workbook and read it, and when you're done, let me know. You get to participate. It's a participatory. And so really I think anybody could do it. Lots of people just want to do it just to get the basic information. There are lots of states that have very similar requirements. So I'm there to help anybody who wants to come through it and figure it out. AddictionCounselorTraining.com. If you have any interest in working in this wonderful field, I suggest you check out the website, check out what they're doing. Again, AddictionCounselorTraining.com. In closing, Carol, I would just say that Greg would be very proud of you. Well, I hope you've enjoyed my conversation with Carol Cloud. And as promised, now we're going to talk to Naser Karimi. Carol mentioned him in her conversation. And he's the one that I told you about that was a counselor in Afghanistan and Iran. And he's now in the United States in Houston, Texas. Welcome back once again, Recovery Coast to Coast. We are down here in San Antonio, Texas, and at the 50th Annual Conference of TAP, the Texas Association of Addiction Professionals. And you know, there's new professionals coming into this field every day. We just had the opportunity to talk with Carol. Carol Cloud is with the Addiction Counselor Training School, and she talked about this refugee who came over from Afghanistan, who has a counseling degree. He worked on the front lines working with addicts in Afghanistan. Has an amazing story, and the fact that he came into this country, the government brought him over. They've sent him into Houston, and because of his background in addiction, they sent him to the Counselor Training School, and he's here at the conference. It's an amazing story. And I asked Carol, I said, did he come over on his own or is he married? And she said, he is married, and they just found out that they're expecting a child.
Wow, Nasser. And we're going to do the interview. It may be a little bit hard to understand because of my language. I sometimes I talk too fast, but we'll try to talk to Nasser. How long have you been here, Nasser?
I have been here around 8 months.
What do you think of America in the first 8 months?
As my first days of incoming, there is nobody supports me around my all the expenses, but I found and I realized that the United States is a country land of opportunities because everybody can express her and his beliefs, not in like the other countries that I grow up. When you want to express your idea, they victim you. But in the United States, yeah, you are freedom to express your idea to your ideology and such this.
Tell me about being an addiction counselor in Afghanistan. Who did you work with and what was it like?
Yeah, you know all the humanitarian organizations they gather in the country by the name of Afghanistan. For example, INIL International and Narcotic Law Enforcement founded all the drug treatment centers in my country, and I worked in the places around 1 decade. And whenever the Taliban took and came to my country, they closed, they banned, they destroyed all the drug treatment centers. And
All the drug treatment centers were
yeah,
closed when the Taliban took over.
yeah, and in front of my eyes, they killed many innocent women because they said in our idea, women must never use drugs.
And so when they found that these women used drugs, they
Yeah,
killed them.
yeah, they were in inpatient treatment centers, and whenever the Taliban surrounded all over the cities, they attacked on these drug treatment centers, and there's no escape for women to escape from that treatment centers, and they kill. And recently, around 3 weeks ago, the Taliban gathered all the addictive men and they killed in front of the people's eyes.
So they went searching for people who were addicted.
Yeah, because according to their beliefs and idea, it's forbidden in Islam.
It is forbidden in Islam
Yeah,
to use alcohol and drugs.
yeah, and they slash everybody who drinks alcohol.
Slash them. What do you mean?
It means it's registered in their in their books. Yeah, you must punish who drank the alcohol by 70 slashes.
70 slashes?
Yeah, 70 slashes is the punish for who uses the alcohol.
How do they find out this information?
For example, they have many spies in all over the cities, and yeah, you know by their behavior. And some people who drank, yeah, they're going out to the street and they realize that these people, yeah, he drank.
How did you deal with that, Nasser? Trying to be an addiction counselor with these people, with these women. It must be difficult for you.
Yeah, this is that I came to the United States to continue my field of study and my education in this field because I saw they suffer from this disease and there is nobody supports them, even their family, not government, but just the United States funded them. And because of the poverty, they came to the drug treatment centers to use, for example, three times of meal. And I realized that I must do my best effort to cover, to support, and to talk via counseling to these people that they never do it again because of the poverty.
Why did you get into the addiction field?
I wrote many essays because Afghanistan is a land for the people who want to start the searching. I wrote one essay and published in the Michigan University, and I like this field because all day I see the people who they are addicted because Afghanistan is a big country of producing the narcotics, the poppy, and every people who they come from the Iran, they are addictive because the people who they work, they must use them to do narcotic to be stronger and carry some stuffs on making the building, and they come back to Afghanistan and I saw them, they are addictive.
So these are people who were what they call drug mules,
Yeah.
taking it across the border.
Yeah, cross the border, and the original people of Afghanistan, they were not addictive, but whenever they go to Iran for labor things, the Iranian asked them to use and smoke the drugs for making yourself power and bold. And this is when they come back from the Iran, yeah, they're addictive.
You spent time in Mashhad,
Yeah,
Iran.
yeah.
Tell me about that.
Uh, Mashhad is the Islamic center of Iran that they believe one of their four men, he died in that Mashhad, and it's like a shrine, holy shrine, and they all day they went to that city and doing their worship. But Mashhad, unfortunately, the government, they asked the Afghan people to leave their country because they had their own narcissist idea, and they do not have good treatment with the people who are refugee. But I found the country of the United States is a good places for the legal refugee like me and other people who escaped from the Taliban, and they good trade with us.
As an addiction counselor in Afghanistan and with the rise of the Taliban, were you in danger?
Yeah, I was in danger because the Taliban, when they realized that I work with INL and some humanitarian organization, they warned me in the first by sending a 3-mail letter in front of my home, and whenever I refused their their request, they burned my car, and they called me every day that leave these NGOs because you are in danger.
And this was the Taliban.
Yeah, the Taliban every day they asked me to leave this because I was the in charge person in one of the dragment centers that directly work with the women, and they said it's not according to our beliefs. Men directly work with the women.
Has it been your dream to come to the United States?
Yeah, all the time. And believe me, there is no cultural shock because all the time I watch the American movie, and I learn English by watching this kind of movie. And all the time I said to myself, you must one day reach the United States to believe your dreams, ambition, and all your dreams that will come be true.
You went through the Addiction Counselor Training School. What was that like for you?
Because that was my field of study. I found this place that I realized is suitable for me to continue this field of study in there. And recently I got my LCDC 1 internship for doing my task, but unfortunately I'm not familiar with this kind of job search, and recently I didn't find a job because there's no any supporter and some assistant for me to cover my life, and fortunately, yeah, I can't cover all my expenses, and because that I found some direct treatment centers, but I can't succeed to find them.
So you're still seeking employment?
Yeah.
Well, I believe that you've come a long way, and you have a long way to go. I believe that you will find the right place for your skill set, and I hope that you continue to keep writing your essays.
Yeah, because currently there are many kind of people of refugee. Yeah, they came here. Maybe I try to continue my research on them. For example, using of the new drugs, because there are limitation kind of drugs in my country, and I found many kind of drugs in the United States. Maybe the people try to use them for interesting, and I want to continue my research on it.
If people wanted to read your essays, how would they find them online?
Yeah, they can refer to the Michigan University.
Michigan University.
Yeah, Michigan University in front of my name, Naser Karimi, and they realize that I do my first research in the Middle East by ACT and LEAP, working on the women, and I compare these two kind of treatment on the women, and which one of them is effective on treatment.
Well, I encourage our listeners to go to the internet, get on Google, and search University of Michigan, Naser, Naser, Karimi, Karimi. And there you will find these essays that will speak volumes. And it's a bridge from Afghanistan to America. You've crossed over that bridge.
Yeah, the history of the addictive women that every day they killed by Taliban, and they are looking for some direct centers and nobody sponsors them.
We'll keep them in our thoughts and prayers, and you as well. Thank you, Naser.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with both Carol Cloud and Naser Karimi. By the way, I want to remind listeners of this podcast, if you'd like to tell your story of recovery, regardless of the path you've chosen, as long as you've been in continuous recovery for a year or more, do drop us a note, recoverycoasttocoast@comcast.net. Coming up next, some recovery insight from award-winning actress Ali McGraw. We'll do that in just 30 seconds.
Are you afraid? Afraid of life without drugs and alcohol? There is help and hope at Sundown M Ranch. At Sundown, the focus is on you and your disease. You will learn how to live without depending on drugs and alcohol. Sundown M Ranch is nationally recognized for effective and affordable alcohol and drug treatment programs. Reclaim your life. Replace your fears with hope. Go to www.sundown.org right now to learn more.
And now, as promised, some inspirational thoughts from an amazing woman in long-term recovery, actress Ali McGraw.
When I look at the person I am today, I appreciate what I see. I accept myself. I care about myself. I value myself. Because I want to continue feeling this way, I choose to think self-affirming rather than self-deprecating thoughts. I tell myself, I can do it. I'm capable. I deserve it. I'm worthy. In the past, the way I felt about myself was determined by the deeds and messages of those around me. Today, I know that I alone am responsible for my sense of worth. It's up to me to develop the attitudes and take the actions that will keep me feeling good about myself. Now that I've come to know and respect my true self, I no longer have to hide behind masks, walls, or possessions. My life decisions, including where to live, what to wear, what to own, are motivated by what is good and right for me, what will make me happy, what my real needs are. Self-worth helps me to be comfortable and open around other people, and to be confident in what I do. Especially exciting is the prospect of what I am becoming, of what still lies ahead. Thought for today. As I heal, I develop an increasing sense of worth from the inside out.
Well, that wraps up this edition of the Recovery Coast to Coast National Podcast. And if you've enjoyed the podcast, we invite you to please share it with at least one other friend. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, our email is recoverycoasttocoast@comcast.net. Please hit the subscribe or follow button. That's free, and you'll be notified the next time we publish a podcast. And if you're considering treatment for a friend or a loved one, maybe even for yourself, be sure and visit NAATP.org/AID. It's the list of those treatment programs that adhere to the strict ethical guidelines. One of them, of course, is Sundown M Ranch, but there are a number of other good treatment programs around the country as well. And remember, if you know someone who's experiencing problems with alcohol or any other drug, here is a 24-hour national helpline that offers free information and confidential treatment referrals. They even have Spanish-speaking individuals available as well. That number is 1-800-622-HELP. And we encourage you to check out findsupport.gov. That's a website designed for individuals, families, and friends, including information on how to pay for treatment, including low-cost and, in some cases, free treatment options. Find healthcare support there as well, how to help someone else or find help for yourself. It's all in one place. Findsupport.gov. And join us next time for America's Voice for Recovery, Recovery Coast to Coast, the national podcast. And another shout out to our sponsoring organization, the good folks at Sundown M Ranch, where recovery begins. Sundown.org. I'm Neil Scott, reminding you to stay healthy, live in gratitude, and be kind to others. Remember, the bright side of addiction is recovery. Pass it on.